Good evening, welcome to our agenda briefing for the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder for tonight's, I was going to say episode, but it's for tonight's meeting that is for next week's Ordinary Council meeting, the 13th of July 2026. I declare tonight's meeting open at 6 p.m. On behalf of the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land on which we meet this evening, and I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on Council's website in accordance with the City's public participation in Council meeting policy, which can be viewed on Council's website. All reasonable care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the public gallery, it's assumed your consent is given if your image is broadcast. There's no one in the public gallery tonight. The purpose of this agenda briefing forum is to enable elected members opportunities to ask questions in relation to the reports that have been presented for Council determination at next week's Ordinary Council meeting. This meeting is intended to support informed decision-making and Council transparency. The format of the agenda briefing forum is as follows. For each report, I'll request a brief overview from the Acting CEO, who may delegate to a Director to speak on their behalf. Once the Acting CEO or Director has finished speaking, I'll give each elected member the opportunity to ask any questions they have in relation to the report. Elected members are not to make statements, offer opinions, or declare how they intend to vote on an item. I will interject where elected members are providing commentary outside of asking questions in relation to the current item. Once all questions have been asked on the report, I'll move on to the next report item. Where the Acting CEO or Director is unable to answer a question, the questions will be taken on notice and answered in writing for the benefit of all elected members. Any questions that are not asked this evening can still be emailed to the City's administration team from elected members through the elected member request process for response prior to the Ordinary Council meeting. And no decisions will be made until the Ordinary Council meeting next Monday. Members of the public are invited to attend or view the live stream of that meeting to ascertain Council's decisions in relation to matters discussed tonight. In attendance, we have Deputy Mayor Terence Winner, who's with us tonight. Good evening to you, Deputy Mayor. Hello, Councillor Bodicar. Hello to Councillor O'Donnell. Good evening to you. Good evening, Councillor Viskovich. Hello, Councillor House. Evening to Councillor Walker-Dunstan here tonight, as well as the Acting CEO, Mel Osborne. We also have Councillor Della, who is joining us via phone tonight. And as it's not a decision-making process, Councillor Della, good evening to you. You are on the phone.
Good evening.
Thank you. Director of Advocacy and Strategy, Mayor Hicks, is with us tonight. Director of Engineering is Louis Camporelli, who's with us. Also, Adam Streeline, the Director of City and Community, and Acting Director of Corporate and Commercial is Nicole Ilsley, joining us for the first time. Nicole, good evening to you. We're also joined by Governance and IT staff, with apologies from members of staff. Francis Liston, Director of Governance and Organisational Strategy, and Cass Yeager, Director of Corporate and Commercial. But Councillor Johnson is also an apology this evening as he's not well. I have some interests this evening, well, not me, sorry, but I do have reported some interests for the meeting. Councillor Corin O'Donnell, sorry, this before I move on. Interests affecting impartiality. Is there any further interests, councillors, at this point? No? Noting that you can still enter that up until next week's meeting. We have impartialities from the Deputy Mayor on the agenda tonight for 1441, the peppercorn lease renewal for the KBVC. Council appointed delegate to the KBVC board, and also an impartiality on the partnership services agreements as well, as he serves on community boards with the same individual organisational board members linked to the items. And they are for items 1441 and 1463 respectively. Financial interests this evening. I have three financial interests from Councillor O'Donnell, declaring a financial interest in item 1442, commercial lease 300 Hannon Street, WML Consultants Proprietary Limited, as an applicant approached him for a quote. Councillor Corin O'Donnell declared a financial interest in item 1451, the award of tender RFT 26007, Rural Roads and Earthworks, as he is a subcontractor for roadworks. And Councillor Corin O'Donnell has also declared a financial interest in item 1452, award of tender RFT 26024, project manager, Rural Roads, as he is a subcontractor for roadworks. Are there any financial interests? No? I will flag, Council, there may be a financial interest from myself coming next week, but I won't know the outcome of that until the next couple of days. 8.3, no proximity interests? No? Thank you. Let's go straight into the reports, councillors, tonight. Item 14.1 is from the Chief Executive Officer. 14.11 is a revised meeting schedule. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This recommendation has been brought forward after some conversations around changing the schedule of council meetings to having the briefing session, agenda briefing on the third Monday and the ordinary council meeting on the fourth Monday, which would enable staff to have a standing workshop item with elected members on finance on the second Monday after the close of each financial month's reports. So we've taken that, informally with elected members and now brought it for council's formal consideration. Happy to take questions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I just wanted to double check if there was any room for movement. I know a lot of the other councillors have spoken about going to a Tuesday. If we could potentially have a look into that prior to next week's meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr. Acting CEO.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If elected members so determined that Tuesday was a better day for the meetings, that can be adjusted, and we'll need to advertise any change to this current schedule. And also, the intention would be that we'd run these meetings on whatever day the council determines for the balance of this year, and then of course around about November, council will determine its 2027 schedule as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Can I ask a question of the report? Yes.
I was just wanting to know when Councillor Viskovich just mentioned about the Tuesdays, is that going to be, we could be looking at for all council meetings?
At the moment, I believe that was discussed last week, that there could be the possibility of moving to Tuesdays. Depends on the recommendation for next week. At the moment, the officer recommendation is still with Monday, as per what we currently look at, but council have the opportunity over the next week to change that through a amended recommendation or an alternative sorry. Councillor House. Sorry, Councillor O'Donnell next.
Sorry, the CEO just mentioned something about advertising any proposed changes. What does he mean by that?
Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So when the council determines its meeting dates, they need to be advertised to the public, so we ensure we get that public input. At the moment, the current schedule of the third Monday for OCMs would have been advertised possibly late last year or early this year for that complete schedule for the calendar year. So we just need to re-inform the community if there is a change.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO.
Clarify, not for submissions, just for advice to the community.
Thank you. Councillor House.
Thank you. Just on that point, so public notification, which is just letting them know this is what the council's meeting schedule will be. That would be post the decision, or would that be prior to the decision?
Thank you, Councillor House. That would be post the decision of council. So, for instance, if there is a change that comes forward for next week, that will need to be captured in that public notice that after council makes the decision.
Just on that point, on this report here, I don't see where that process would happen in accordance with this report. So if we're moving the meeting to the Monday of the fourth week of the month, would that undergo the same requirement of public notification?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr. Acting CEO.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So because currently those dates would have been determined for the third Monday, so that will actually, the schedule would have been Monday the 20th of July, etc., etc. So if council determined either to move to the fourth Monday, being the 27th of July, or to the Tuesday or in August to start from that perspective, that would be notified to the public. And that's under point 3 of the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Councillor O'Donnell.
Just a point of clarification. If, or Councillor Viskovich said, we move meetings to a Tuesday, would we still get the agendas on the Friday?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr. Acting CEO.
Mr. Mayor. So our intention has been to try to close off agendas and have them distributed Thursday afternoon, and I know there's been a few that have come out on Fridays, but yes, we'd certainly be still looking to close agendas off and distribute them Thursday afternoon, Friday morning at the latest.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr. Acting CEO, by changing the schedule for the council meetings, does that then allow, for instance, if this change does go through for August, that in the August OCM we are considering the July SOFA. Is that the intent as well of having that most up to date if we're going to the concept piece being the 2nd, and then the agenda briefing being the 3rd, then the statement of financial activity would therefore be the previous month, as at the moment we have a 2-month gap.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that would be the intention. So it gives the extra week for the staff to prepare the agenda item based on the closeout of the prior month. As you're right, in this agenda we've got May's statement of financial activity. June's is a little bit different, where we quite often note that rather than get council to adopt it because of the waiting for the certified financial statements through the audit process, or audited financial statements. So I think once we get past that piece, I would hope that staff will be able to get the previous month's statement of financial activity up to that following month's agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. No further questions. Item. Sorry, Councillor Della, go ahead.
In the event that this motion is supported, is it envisaged that it would still be the 6 p.m. start time, or is that part of the change of looking to be adopted?
Thank you.
Will this need advertising?
Thank you, Councillor Della. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At this stage, there was no intention of changing the starting time of the council meetings, just the dates.
Okay, so is there a need for that to be noted as part of the motion that the meetings are at 6 p.m. for advertising purposes as well?
Thank you, Councillor Della. Mr Acting CEO.
Sorry, I've just gone on to my next line item, but I think that the agenda item, I think the schedule that was attached indicates a 6 p.m. start, but I'll double check that. And if we need to add it into the recommendation, we will certainly make sure that's very clear.
Thank you, Councillor Della. The attachment does not state the time, Mr Acting CEO, just the date. Item 14.21 under Governance and Organisational Strategy, Mr Acting CEO.
Through Mr Mayor, so number of updated policies, and probably happy to take questions from the floor from that, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yep. It's in relation to elected member travel, and it goes on to say that elected members can't ask for preferred travel and all that, and I accept that. But I was wondering, can we do an audit on the cost of flights overall for elected members and staff over a 3 to 6 month period to find out, like as an example, if they book a flight, say for the mayor, to go somewhere and that it's booked, it's locked in, the staff member can then have a look and see, right, I can book that flight for this compared to what this company, because if you're dealing with going through a middleman, they want to make profit. And I know they have some deals with airlines and things, but is it possible just to look at that to see if we are getting bang for our buck?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr Acting CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's possible for staff to do that assessment. I wouldn't want them to be doing that continuously, but I think to do that value checking is probably a useful tool.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor House?
Which of these policies proposed are statutory policies requiring an update?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Okay, so thank you, Mr Mayor. So my understanding is most of these are existing policies that have been previously adopted by council. Are they statutory? No, they're not, but they do give guidance to elected members and to staff on a policy position that the council would take on various topics.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
How does the council implement, or if I wanted to bring in a new policy, how would I bring in a new policy to the council?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If elected members have got, I guess, an idea of a policy that's missing from our suite of policies, initially it could be perhaps brought forward to a concept forum for discussion, and with the consent of elected members, we could do some work on trying to prepare what that policy might look like. Failing that, the elected members would have the opportunity of a notice of motion around a policy position.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
Mr Mayor. So the policies in front of us haven't gone through that process. Is there a reason why they haven't gone through that process that you've articulated?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm unsure. I'm going through what policy? The policy, this process?
Mr. Acting CEO, you outlined the process for a councillor to get a policy onto the agenda or as part of the organisation. And I thought that was a fairly sound and robust way to go about that policy. My question is, why haven't these policies being proposed gone through the same or a similar process?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Unfortunately, I can't answer why, because they may have. Some of these policies have been in place for a number of years. These aren't new policies that have just come to the table today. Most of them are actually in a cyclical process of being reviewed every 2 years. So at the end of each policy, you'll see the document control table, and that will tell you when the policy was first adopted or endorsed by council and when it was last reviewed.
Thank you, Councillor.
2023 was the last review date, Mr. Acting CEO, and there are new policies listed here. So one of those new policies is the floodplain management and development policy. So my question is, what legislation does that operate under? And if I undertook development tomorrow, would I be required to comply with this policy?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor. Yes, there are new policies on the table as well as those reviewed policies. My error. So the policies are all created under all these policies are created under the Local Government Act, and if they are adopted by council, then they become policies of the council, and then staff would use those policies in forming any potential developers or activities that fall under the policy, whether it's floodplain or elected member travel. They'll all be the same process that we would use. Did I answer that?
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
I'm not going to challenge what the CEO's saying in the meeting. I don't think that's appropriate, but I think it's remiss of council not to get legal advice on this matter, because it is it's very critical that policies are applied under the correct legislation.
Thank you, Councillor House. Any further questions, councillors? No. Item 15.2.2, elected member continuing professional development policy and elected member and CEO attendance at events policy. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So you can see the attachment has track changes. It's the right one, sorry. Beg your pardon. So the policy that's been attached has got the track changes. Again, that is an existing policy that is being reviewed and last reviewed in June 2025, and because of some changes, I think legislative-wise, it has been brought back to council.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Questions, councillors? Councillor House.
Last reviewed June 2025. The reason it's in front of us today is because of legislative changes. I presume, I've got to presume this. I can't see in the report where we're articulating the statutory requirements that we need to abide by and then reflect in this policy, Mr. Acting CEO. Could you articulate for us what those legislative changes are, please?
Thank you, Councillor House. Just take that on.
Mayor, I'll take that on notice and
Take
provide
that
some
on
more
notice.
detail back to elected members.
Thank you, Councillor House.
Could we please get that in written advice, Mr. Mayor, and specifically in relation to this report, or even if the officers care to amend the report to articulate that, I think that would be the sufficient way to answer that question.
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr. Acting CEO, noting that. Thank you. Any further questions on those reports, councillors? Item 14.2.3, elected member meeting attendance records, 25-26 financial year. Pretty self-explanatory. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you. I have received an email in regards to a fare that was being refunded, which I've also been advised we've got from the team to say that there was no change. I just want to clarify that it's the company that has booked the flights.
Stand by, Councillor Viskovich. I think you've jumped one ahead. This is
Oh,
your
have I?
attendance records. Thank you. No worries. No further questions. 14.2.4, elected member travel and training, 25-26. Councillor Viskovich.
Can we please clarify in writing with the company that booked our flights that I have definitely not received a refund, as the company, Qantas, has advised that I have received a refund, but it doesn't reflect on my sheet.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. We'll note that.
I can take that offline with the councillor. We'll follow through and get that resolved, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick one from myself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the mayor to the CEO. If a training or conference has been endorsed by council, would that not be recorded as opposed to optional as required if it's a council resolution?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Acting CEO.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm struggling to follow the question. Sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead again, please, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going through the attachment that's a link through where it provides whether the item is required or optional through the column. If the item such as the ALG NGA 2026 conference was a resolution of council, should that be recorded as a required expense as opposed to an optional expense?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Mr. Acting CEO.
Thank you. Sorry about my confusion on it. So I would say that it's still an optional request because there's no expectation that an elected member has to attend. They may attend in accordance with the policy, and if they do attend in accordance with the policy, then that's not part of a training allocation, but it is travel undertaken optionally by elected members.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Can I challenge that on 3A of the policy, which states that where an elected member nominates or is nominated to attend the conference, training course or any other event which is determined by council, the costs of such attendance and related travel be borne to the city and not be included in the voluntary professional development provisions. Just wanted to highlight that for you, which I think was where the Deputy Mayor was trying to go. So can we just capture that as well, so it's not optional?
So that is understood. However, this is around the travel and training expense. This is not in accordance with the policy as to when or what you attend and what is charged against your training budget. So this is picking up all travel, and I would have thought that a required travel would be the minister telling the council or the mayor to get to Perth because he wants to talk to you significantly or something serious, whereas any of the options of attending a conference still rest as an option for the elected members.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Deputy Mayor.
Just to follow up using that, and thank you, Mr. CEO, for that response, but would that also apply potentially for the AMCA meetings that's required?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Acting CEO. Sorry to... Got caught thinking. Australian Mining Cities Alliance. Sorry, Mr Acting CEO, go ahead.
Okay. Probably my answer doesn't change that much, where even though an elected member may be a board member or an attendee, it is still an optional attendance. Attendance could be perhaps online. Attendance could be deferred to another elected member, or attendance could be refused and an apology placed for the meeting. So there would be very few circumstances, I would think, within the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder where that where the required notation would be applied, unless there is a legal matter in Perth, perhaps, that an elected member needed to attend. Otherwise, I think most of the travel that elected members undertake, not only with the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder but other local governments, would be under that optional banner.
Thank you. Councillor House.
My question isn't so much about the logistics of it all. My question is about the reporting of. Is there a statutory requirement to do this reporting? I'll ask that first part of the question. I'll come back to the second part.
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't believe there's a statutory requirement. I'm not sure how long this has been happening at the City, but perhaps it was about transparency and good practice, and it's followed through to where we are today.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yep, totally on board with the transparency and keeping everybody informed. If we were to do something of that nature, I'd strongly suggest it's simplified. For me, I look at that and it's complicated. It's like a patchwork quilt. It doesn't really tell me any value adding to my as a community member. Maybe as a suggestion, we can get it online. It's live. If people want to understand, they don't have to wait once every quarter. And if we simplify that by just recording the meetings as per our calendar at the front of this agenda, something to that nature. That's just a suggestion. Use the technology available.
Your question would be, can we? Is that correct, Councillor House?
That's correct, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor House. Take that on notice for you.
Yes, certainly take that on notice.
Yeah, thank you. Item 14.25 is the update to Code of Conduct for councillors, committee members and candidates. Councillor O'Donnell, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under the policy, there is no definition for City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. Yet, under 12.6 Delta, it says in part, take action the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder considers appropriate. Who would you classify as the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder that would take action?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the administration is the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. The CEO would normally be the appropriate person or a complaints officer as determined or as referenced within any documentation or through the City as another officer of the City.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor House?
There's a code of conduct, and I know this article very well, so I can tell you that there has been a couple of updates and changes, but it's not really clear to me or the public what those changes are, but more importantly, why we're undertaking these changes. I think that's the bigger question I'd like to understand. Why we're undertaking these changes.
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you. So my understanding, Mr Mayor, is these changes have been brought about by, one, the introduction of the Local Government Inspector's Office, two, the amendments to the, I think what was classed as the template for Code of Conduct issued by WALGA and the department. But I'll double check that and come back to the to councillors.
Thank you. Councillor House.
Those changes that you're referring to are quite substantial in terms of operational practices and the separation of the administration and the council in itself. My question is, why is this the first time we're considering this at a public meeting when we can have the opportunity to have a really good rundown by the officers about what our responsibilities are and how we kind of uphold those responsibilities? with the state changes.
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Look, Mr Mayor, I'll take that on notice because I thought this had been socialised with elected members through concept forums, but I'll certainly take it on notice and provide whether that is correct or whether this is the first time it's come about.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House, it's not the first time Council has adopted a model code of conduct, but this particular model code of conduct that's been presented with these changes, it's the first time that we're getting a look at that. Thank you. If that probably provides some further clarity to your question.
It does, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the elaborating on that for me. I quick look myself today, and you know, these changes are fundamental. These are fundamental changes, and it seems that the 1st of January, when they've come into effect, and hence our meeting with the inspectorate a couple of weeks ago. These are fundamental changes about how the operations occur. And I think it's really important that as councillors and the public as well, because this brings into the public into the equation.
Do you have a question, sorry, Councillor House?
How do we make sure that the public is informed, and us councillors being part of that public, how are we informed? I don't think this is sufficient for informing or engaging with us.
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO, take that on notice as well. Councillor Bodica.
Thanks. Look, I totally understand the code of conduct for councillors, but has anything changed much for candidates? Because some of us, you know, around the table have actually, you know, run through quite a lot of elections, and the candidates seem to be able to say and do whatever they want, whether it's bullying tactics, whether it's harassment, untruths that are actually said about people and their families. Is this code of conduct going to change in any aspect towards candidates that are running an election?
Thank you.
And how is it going to actually control those candidates? Because in the past it hasn't, and I know that candidates are also included in the code of conduct, so it seems pretty much like a toothless tiger type of policy if it's not going to.
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Without getting into debate, I've got your question. Thank you. Mr Acting CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor, so minimal changes in regard to candidates, and that's a matter that needs to be raised again through the department and through WALGA.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Bodica.
So given that we've actually experienced that in the past, are we going to be upping it and taking it through and discussing this with, you know, state government about how they're going to, I'm trying to do it tactfully, how we're going to actually control this type of thing for the next election, which will be next year?
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. The continued advocacy will continue from the city. We've already had that process after the last election, and that will continue ahead of the next election, noting that there are some reform changes that the Minister is working on at the moment, which I'm not even aware of, but there's been some circulated. Thank you.
This is just a clarification. So I'm a candidate, I run for council, I can say and do whatever I want, but I'm not going to be taken to task until I'm actually elected as a councillor. Is that correct? And then I can actually be breached under the code of conduct. Is that still the same sort of?
That was the scenario that was at the last election, from what I understand, and as the Acting CEO has pretty much said, there's been no changes on those model code of conducts. Or model code of conduct, I should say, not conducts. Further questions, councillors? Nope. Let's move to item 14.2.6, corporate performance reporting. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Fairly large document with a fair bit of information in it, so I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Any questions? Councillor House?
I just confirm I've got the recommendation right. The council received this report and attached reports.
Correct.
Can I take that to assume? Can I take that to read that the changes outlined in the community, what do we call it? The community business plan. Can I take that those changes are being endorsed as part of this report?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So essentially the corporate performance recording on a quarterly basis is providing updates And like a lot of reports, these are a moving, the elements of our reporting move on a day-to-day basis. So what has been reported in front of you is has been reviewed up till pretty close to the end of the financial year, which is the June quarter, and has been provided in that format, and councillors has been asked to receive that information.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
Just to clarify, so there's no changes proposed to the corporate business plan, or there are changes to the corporate business plan?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the corporate business plan will start again from July 1 based on the new budget. So that will be reconstructed based on the projects, programs and delivery of everything that the city does. That will create a new corporate business plan, and 26-27 will be the first year of the 4-year rolling cycle.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO.
Four-year rolling cycle, and so that won't be reviewed again for another 4 years?
Thank you, Councillor House. Thank you, Mr Acting CEO.
So the corporate business plan gets reviewed every year because the first year can only be after council has adopted its budget. So the first year becomes the new first year with projections for 4 years based on assumptions, and also, as an example, probably the best example I can give, this year we spoke to elected members around some of the capital projects that will be phased in over 2 years. So those projects that are phased into 27-28 now need to start to be populated in the second year of the new corporate business plan.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do believe I have requested this previously, but on the CBP update report, are we able to include final dates or the next big milestone due date? Because an 80% to me could have been sitting at 80% for 6 to 12 months, and we would not know when it's actually due.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr Acting CEO.
Just to be clear, so we give a progress perspective, and you'd like to see what we're intending to achieve in the next quarter? Is that right?
Councillor Viskovich?
No, I'd prefer to have either a due date for the finalisation, or if we're working in like milestone steps, when the next milestone is due, so that we can determine whether we're on track with dates.
Thank you.
Delivery.
Take
Yes.
it on board.
Thank you. Thank you. Further questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I do apologise, Mr CEO and directors, that I wasn't able to send these off earlier, but I do have a couple on this one. The first one is I note that several projects have been deferred into the next delivery period, such as the wastewater treatment plant internal road renewal project and the upgrading of sporting and community facilities. Just wanted to check, are there any deferred projects which have needed to cross into the 26-27 financial year which may not have already been budgeted for?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So my understanding is all carry forward projects have been included in the budget. I stand here with giving you that with my best knowledge at the moment, and it's only until staff start going back over their unique budgets where they'll come back and say if anything has been missed. But there is, I'm trying to think now, it was $8.5 million, I think, worth of carry forward projects. So there was a lot of conversation with managers, the reporting officers, to make sure that if they hadn't completed their projects, they were certainly brought into finance department as a need to see carry forward.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
And just one final one. I was very excited to read in regards to the enterprise asset management system. I just wanted to see where we're at with the implementation and integration of this system and when we expect to have that completed by.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr Acting CEO.
Yes, through Mr Mayor, there's been a very significant amount of work done on the asset management work. The executive had a presentation last week from the asset management team, and we are looking forward to bringing 1 or 2 workshops to elected members so that you have a much clearer understanding of where that work is up to in terms of data sets, but also valuations, and then look at if there are asset renewal gaps, what does that picture look like per asset class, but also what it looks like in totality for the city into the future. So significant amount of work being done. I was very pleased to see how much had been advanced in that space, because I have been pushing the director and his team to move forward on that project. I look forward to be able to share that information with elected members in the near future.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The outline you gave before regarding the corporate business plan and how it's put together, I'm just wanting to understand what are the statutory requirements around that compilation period, and what are the statutory requirements that exist that inform the corporate business plan?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
So the Local Government Act requires the administration and the council to look forward and to plan for the future. The Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework then outlines a number of key strategies that the local government should be preparing and presenting to elected members and council for not only populating the corporate business plan, but also populating the long-term financial plan. And as we've discussed before, and I know you've raised the issue around the timeliness of some of these documents in terms of the workforce development plan and asset management plan. So there's an expectation through the department that, and through the legislation, that the city will do these, but they are not all mandated documents as such. How are they then put together? The corporate business plan is, as I said before, is sort of underpins the future by saying, here's the first year's budget, being 26-27. What might that look like in the following 3 financial years with the known changes and known assumption, and assumptions that might be added to that. The longer term plan, which is looking to be changed now by the department, requiring 10-year plans, which will really be probably in the future just known as council plans, and that's bringing a much more longer lens or a much more longer view to all of the strategic documents, but also the council's financial position, also the delivery of projects and the preservation of existing assets for the council.
Thank you.
Hopefully I've answered that okay.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. So that one element I was looking for is so the quarterly reporting that we have now. So we have the quarterly corporate performance reporting. So is that a statutory requirement to report quarterly, or is there a statutory requirement just to report once?
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
I don't believe there's any statutory reporting timelines. Quarterly reporting enables the administration to demonstrate to the council and to the community about where the corporate business plan and the activities and programs listed in it are up to. The traffic management lights, or the traffic light system, just gives a quick oversight of how things are going at the moment at the time of the report.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Just reverting back to a question regarding the budgets being set up for the corporate business plan. Are we working off the budget of 26-27, or are we working off the long-term financial plan budget for 26-27?
Mr Mayor, so the long-term financial plan is in the process of being rewritten and redeveloped, I should say. That will now be have a founding year of the 26-27 budget, and there will need to be workshops for elected members so that everyone understands the capacity of the city, the wishes of the community, and where that sweet spot might be met.
Thank you. Councillors, 14.3 is Finance, People and Culture, purchasing statistics from January 2026 to March 2026. Is that the correct heading for this particular meeting, Mr Acting CEO?
Yes, it is. It's the first quarter report purchasing, I believe.
Roger, just checking. No worries, just stepping back in time. Over to you, Mr Acting CEO. No, Director of Corporate and Commercial? Acting Director? Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Just grab your mic as well.
Okay, so in this item you'll see the statistics that for that first quarter, and you'll also be able to see that there were some purchasing statistics over $250,000, local supplier spend, and the Golf Woods Events Pavilion as attachments which are under confidential. So if there was to be any discussion on those points, Mr Mayor, we'd need to go behind closed doors.
Thank you, councillors. Noting that there are 2 items on tonight's agenda that we will require briefings for behind closed doors, they're confidentially in the agenda. If you do have any questions on those, we can move those to that particular time on those particular confidentials, and with any other future confidentials that are within the agenda as well. Is there any questions from the report that's public facing? Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report has identified where there's a few suppliers spend exceeding the tender. I am on the right one, yes? Perfect. I just want to make sure that we've implemented a procedure to ensure that this doesn't occur going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr Acting CEO.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So there are some rationale behind those, but at the end of the day, they have gone over that threshold. As you probably be aware, the city is migrating to a new finance package from Altus. I don't know the names, but we are migrating to a new finance package. We are pretty clear that that new finance package will also not allow this to happen. There'll be able to be a number of other checkpoints in the financial package to make sure that people cannot keep purchasing from the same supplier unless there is a contract in place through a tender process.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you. Just further to that, what date do we intend to have that program in place? And is there something in place in the meantime?
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr Acting CEO.
Yes, there's a piece of wood with two nails in the end, is one. So the new package will probably be implemented over the next 12 months. I think we'll probably run in duplicate, running 2 programs for a period of time before we test the migration, that all data has been migrated safely. So it'll probably, I suspect at this stage, perhaps early in the new calendar year, but quite possibly the 1st of July next year for the new package to be 100% live. We'll get an update on that transition. At the moment, the other issue that has been raised with staff through procurement and through their directors is the need to keep track of their expenditure and looking at who they are spending who they're putting purchase orders through. So to say, there is some validation to why some of those matters occurred, but they still don't really help if we're over the threshold.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor Viskovich.
Sorry, final one. So how often are the team actually checking the payment, their purchasing threshold is not at limit?
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Mr Acting CEO.
The new regime is much more regularly than perhaps what they were. So there is a lot of conversations occurring within teams, and to give an example, the purchasing in June 2026 versus June 2025 was reduced because we've actually mandated for a period of time that all purchase orders are being elevated through the director or the CEO for approval.
Thank you. Councillor House.
I just wanted clarification. Were the questions that the councillor touched on then, does that refer to the procurement $250,000, I don't think breaches is the right word, but thresholds is where we've gone over? Is that what we're referring to?
Correct.
I was really kind of miffed by one of those, which was, I think it was the Goldfields Auto Sparky, I think it is. He's been there for a very long time, and I believe also been providing a service for a very long time. I just wanted to understand what would be the rationale to not be having some type of agreement or contract with this service provider. And my understanding is a very good service provider. I think it'd be in our interests to have such a contract. Is there a reason why we don't?
As part of the recommendation of the recommended action, that's been considered as part of it to go through a panel tender, but Mr Acting CEO.
Yeah, first of all, this has got no bearing on the quality of the service we're receiving. As you've indicated, the city's received great service from all of these contractors over a long period of time. I don't believe that in the past that the threshold has been breached, so there was no consideration in possibly getting close to it. With a changeover of a number of vehicles over the last 12 months or so, there's been a lot more work done to equip them with the safety mechanisms and the accessories they required, and unfortunately that we have gone over that $250,000 in that financial year. So there's another item a bit later on around a panel tender, you'll see the city may start to look at more panel tenders over a period of time, which will allow more than one particular supplier to be selected by the city for them to be able to spread that work out, but also to make sure they've got access to the goods and services as required from the community.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
I had a question just regarding procurement more generally, and wanting to understand how is our procurement policy really driving the decisions at the operational level? Because I notice that we do have a procurement policy. We don't seem to talk about it very often. Is that the reason that maybe the policy isn't up to date, or it could be worked on? Just what's the logic regards not basing our decisions around that policy?
Thanks, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO.
Yes, Mayor. Principal outcome that the administration is trying to achieve is value. And value sometimes can be monetary, or value can sometimes be level of service and quick response. So essentially, procurement's done over many parts of the organisation. The purchasing policy is there. Purchasing policy drives the need to seek value for the organisation. And then behind that, we've got a local purchasing policy, which drives that benefit to local suppliers to be more competitive than perhaps those other suppliers outside of the region. So it's not in a pure monetary sense, but it's in the assessment of monetary component of tenders.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor House.
I'll just push back on that with the value, because I would say, and I'm going to guess here, that if we've got a buy local policy, which I presume we still have, I would suggest that value isn't the predominant consideration. The predominant consideration is purchase local, because we know that it's going to be a good quality service, and we know things just cost more here. So I just want to just understand how are we really driving our model around what council really wants is to have that buy local, is to be using our local contractors, and is to set up systems so that local contractors, such as the Goldfields Auto Electrical, has some assurance. Because I'm not going to speak on the business's behalf, but I would imagine if I've got a big spike in my business, I'd like to plan for that.
We can take that. Thank you. We'll take that, Mr Acting CEO, to probably some further discussion in regards to policy. The report, while it notes that there's, policy in there, it is to note those purchasing statistics. Obviously, Councillor House would like to get knuckled down a little bit further onto the policy itself, so we'll take that for a policy review. Thank you, Councillor House. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to expand a little bit more on Councillor Viskovic's direction a little bit. And just through the Mayor to the CEO, given the current finance system and the expected new finance system won't address the reported compliance breaches, and given compliance breaches have occurred now over multiple quarters, with multiple mitigation actions implemented, what options are there that exist around potentially a financial system upgrade, and what permanent controls can be implemented to stop procurement compliance breaches occurring moving forward? And I'm happy for that one to be on notice as well, because there's a bit in there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr Acting CEO.
There is a bit in there. So, through Mr Mayor, I think initially what we'll look to do is to bring a report to Council, maybe or through a concept forum, with a better understanding of what the new package will provide and what those safeguards are in there, how those are built into the system to prevent even accidental purchasing over the threshold limit to be picked up. And then if I can just leave it there, we'll bring that report, bring a presentation once the director's back, and give you a clear understanding of what that new program will offer in terms of those protections.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Deputy Mayor.
And just one final part of that, please, Mr Mayor, is if part of that reporting process, Mr CEO, if it's possible, can we also have some information provided through the council on what risks exist, both the council and the city, if repeated compliance breaches continue to occur moving forward?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr Acting CEO.
Yes, we can do that, and probably besides reporting through to the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee and having it picked up through our annual audit, the other risk is to staff losing their purchasing authorities.
Thank you. 1432, Accounts Payable Report, June 2026. Question, councillors? No, just noting what the CEO said as part of the previous item was that drop in year on year. So that's where you can see that graph on page 38. Item 1433, the amendment to the schedule of fees and charges 2627.
Yeah, I did put my hand up late. I'm just on 14.3.2.
Yep, go ahead.
A question about fuel.
Yep, go ahead.
We previously considered an item regarding the ability for officers to adjust contracts that required fuel. My understanding now the market is starting to stabilise again. I wanted to ensure that we have a closeout date on that arrangement and that we're making any adjustments necessary. Can we confirm that's the case? And if there is that cut off with the fuel arrangements? Thank you.
Oops. Yep. Thank you, Councillor House, and noting that it's obviously driven by the fuel excise that's been now relaxed. And if we can get an update presented to Council, Mr Acting CEO.
Just through me, I'll just add that where there were requests, and I don't believe we received a lot. I think there might have been one or two of the contractors put in those requests. They were on time-limited basis, and I think the other contracts already had rise and fall clauses in them.
Thank you. 1433 is the amendment to the schedule fees and charges 2627. Is there any questions there, councillors? No, thank you. 1434 is the statement of financial activity May 2026. Any questions, councillors? No. Yes, 1434. SOFA for May.
I just had a question, and it's maybe similar to your question, Mr. Mayor, regarding the reporting times, and just understanding, I guess, that lag or that time difference. Because myself, when I look at this May report, you might get excited about something, and you might have a question about something, but what is it now? July, and we're looking at the May report, so could we kind of decrease that lag time?
Yeah, I think that's the point of the item. First item was moving to that extra day, that extra week allows that extra time period to include the more up-to-date finance figures for council to consider. So we're not going back to May in July, and I think previously we have had that reporting. However, with also the agendas now being available a little earlier to councillors, i.e. The other day was the 9th, 10th of the month, so therefore June hadn't been considered. So, yeah, thank you. Item 1441, Peppercorn lease renewal. The Deputy Mayor has indicated a impartiality in this. Council, I have a meeting tomorrow, just to be clear. I have a meeting tomorrow. I may be declaring a financial interest in that. I don't know the outcome until after that meeting, so I just wanted to, for clarity purposes. 1441 is the Peppercorn lease renewal. Any questions, councillors? No? Mr Acting CEO, you wish to?
Yeah, so only, Mr Mayor, if you're following the document, you'll see the red. We're just trying to make sure that we get that language consistent across all of these same items.
Sure, so that is the wording being subject to the outcomes of public consultation in accordance with section 3.58 of the Local Government Act 1995 approves the granting. That's what you're saying, that's what I've got as red. Yeah, so we're just highlighting that first line and the second line up to the word granting. So your reason for that, Mr Acting CEO, you're making sure that that is the correct wording moving forward?
So just when we did a final review of the document, going through it over the weekend, there was a slight change in the wording between 1441 and what 1443, I think, had.
Okay, so I'm just confirming that. Okay, yes, I have a different update on mine. Councillors, the recommendation on the screen is the correct recommendation. The recommendation you have on your docs on tap says approves in accordance with.
So, sorry, I'll be making another change to this.
Okay,
So the intention was subject to no submissions being received.
sorry, just got, yep.
Subject to no submissions being received in the public consultation, approves the granting of. So it'll be ordinarily then be enacted if there are no submissions received. If there are submissions received, for or against, the matter will be referred to council at the close of the public submission period.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Howe.
Do we need to say sublease?
Do we need to say it should be sublease? No, because we own the Kalgoorlie Town Hall.
Okay, because we own it. I'm just wondering, I guess for a legal clarification, can we then lease, aren't we then leasing the whole entire building to the visitor centre? If we don't sublease it? Like an agistment. So if I've got a parcel of land and I agist part of my land, I agist it and then give legal tenure to that owner.
Yeah, copy that. Thank you. So you're saying how do we segregate the building pieces as to that? Thank you. Nicole Ilsley, who's our Acting Director of Corporate and Commercial.
That was correct, through the chair. We do own the building and it is classed as multi-use. There are particular areas that we are leasing to that particular tenant.
So I'm just trying to clarify Councillor House's question here in terms of leasing, the leasing document that
Yes.
we are then granting
Mm-hmm.
contains within the leasing document the areas of the Kalgoorlie Town Hall that will be leased out.
Yes, through the chair, there's a specific sketch that says which areas they are leasing within the town hall.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor House?
It sure does. It sure does. It's just with the language that we're using here in the council resolution.
Yep.
It just would be important that it reflects anything that the existing commercial arrangements outline, just so we've got the word terminology correct.
Thank you. Thanks. Stay there, don't go too far. Acting Director, Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Why are we putting subject to the outcomes of public consultation? I know it says in accordance with the Local Government Act. Do we have to do that? Like real estate's just put it out and they decide. Why do we have to ask the public who we can let in or not?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Over to you, Acting Director.
Through the chair, we do have to do a public notice because it is classed as a disposal, even as a lease, so that does have to require a public notice.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions on that item, councillors? Nope. Item 1442, commercial lease, 300 Hannon Street, WML Consultants Proprietary Limited. Again, the officer recommendation should be updated for you, council, with the words subject to the outcomes of public consultation in accordance with section 358 of the Local Government Act 1995. Councillor O'Donnell, you've indicated a financial. Thank you. Yep, on the screen we've got the Kalgoorlie-Boulder Visitor Centre. So there's no change. I've got it in red on mine just to clarify, sorry, just making sure.
So we will still make that minor change.
Yep.
Which will read something along the lines of subject to no submissions being received in accordance with the public consultation.
So if you do have something different, please keep, yep. Sorry, councillors. Is there any questions, first of all, while we do progress that? No. Just highlighting, Nicole, sorry, that it was, sorry, Acting Director, that it's upstairs and downstairs of 300 Hannon Street.
through the chair, yes, there's sections of upstairs and downstairs.
Thank you. No further questions? Councillor, my word would be just to keep an eye on that recommendation, just to make sure that you have that. We'll ensure that governance sends the update to you as well. Item 14.4.3, commercial lease, Shop 7, Market Arcade, 272 Hannon Street. Sorry, can we have Councillor O'Donnell back, please? Councillor, any questions on the commercial lease for Shop 7, Market Arcade? No. Councillor O'Donnell returning, declaring a financial on that item. Councillor O'Donnell, do you have any questions on 14.4.3, the commercial lease of Shop 7 Market Arcade? Negative, thank you. Item 14.4.4, WA PGA Championship sponsorship. Council were presented on this item last week. Is there any questions, Council, in regards to this? Councillor Viskovich, noting that the attachment and the venue agreement is a confidential item.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to know if there was a way that the city can measure the return on this investment.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich. Mr Acting CEO. Yep. Acting Director, Mr Acting CEO. Do you have your report open, Acting Director? No? Thank you. We'll revert to the Acting CEO.
The city, sorry, through the chair, the city...
Thank you, Acting Director. Go ahead.
Through the chair, the city does monitor the requirements that through the yearly... Sorry, I've just lost my spot.
Yep.
So currently, the two key indicators we have are that the broadcast numbers of the televised broadcast in 2025, 412,031 people, and then the economic return to the city's economy as provided by the PGA in their final report was $329,000.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich. Yep, all good. Thank you. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to check, would the proposed increased costs linked to this agreement be covered within budgeted parameters in the 26-27 annual budget, or would they be additional expenses?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Acting Director.
Funding for future years will be considered through the city's annual budget process, incorporated into relevant budgets should council approve the agreement.
Thank you. And noting that it is the 27 to 31 period, so it would fall out of the current budget period. Thank you. Any further questions? No? Thank you. Thank you, Acting Director. 14.5.1, award of tender RFT 26007 Rural Road and Earthworks. Councillor O'Donnell has declared a financial interest in this item. And also the next item, which is 14.5.2, the award of tender RFT 26024. Council, we have oh, no, we're not into voting. Sorry, I was just about to move into voting. We have a report that's being presented to you. There are questions on that report, Council. One question from me, in particular, the way in which the weighting has resulted in some outcomes. There is obviously a confidential piece here, Mr. Director of Engineering, but for those who have done works previously versus those who are currently doing works, there seems to be a change in ranking or a change that's occurred as part of that process. Are you able to provide any commentary, obviously, bearing in mind that is a confidential document, any public commentary on that?
Yes, and to yourself, Mr. Mayor. So this panel contract weighs heavily on price, so there's 60% of the weighting is geared towards price. So when doing the assessment, the lowest price would get the full 60%, and then it works its way back to that to around 30%. So there's a large weighting dependent on the contractor on price. So what you're asking is some of the contractors that may have worked for the city previously provide really good service, key personnel, regional contracting only 10%, relevant experience 20%, but the 60% weighting towards price may push them further down than previous.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Can I follow up that question by saying, therefore, does it stunt anyone who puts in an overpriced piece, but therefore their service is superior to that of a potential with the price gap? I guess, are we just giving the opportunity, therefore, to the cheapest price rather than to the best price and the best value out of that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through yourself, definitely not. So this is just a panel contract. Once each specific piece of work will then go back out to out to quote for each of the contracts, and they'll be able to quote on that specific type of work, and it may be more niche to what they have.
Okay, yep, thank you. Councillor Viskovich first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm assuming that item 14.5.2, being that there's suppliers on both of these lists. So my question for 14.5.1 is, how will the city decide which contractor on the panel gets the job?
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Director.
So the scope of the works will go out to the contractors. They'll give the city a quote. That'll include price, the ability to work, the plant and equipment that they have to complete the work, similar work that they've completed. Those quotes will all come back, and the city will decide the most desirable contractor for that piece of work. There is a number of pieces of work in the 26-27 financial year in this space.
Head Councillor Viskovich.
Apologies, I didn't think I understood how it all works. So in that instance, those tenderers that we are essentially selecting will all be contacted for a job, and then they will put in a tender for us to choose out of them.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich.
That is the intent of a panel contract, is to go out to the 12 successful, but it doesn't restrict the city from just choosing those 12. That can also open it up further should it need to.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
Can I just clarify the comment around 60% weighting in price? Or does that consider value for money? Because pricing and value for money are two different things, I would argue.
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
Price does not, Councillor House. So the way it's been tended, they would basically give you a price for an employee, a price for a supervisor, price for each piece of plant that they would have, and that makes the basis for the price. The value for money would come back to the relevant experience and respondents' resources.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
And what percentage do we give to timing or delivery of the service or the product?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
None in this space, Councillor House. When we go back out to quote, that'll be done then.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Bodica.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Just getting back to what Councillor Hoss was talking about before, does this fit in line with our local procurement policies and our buy local? Are we, sort of like supporting our local contractors and tenderers in this process?
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Director of Engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through yourself. And good question, Councillor Bodica. Of the 12 that have applied, 6 are local contractors, 2 are Goldfields contractors, and 4 are external to the Goldfields.
And
Thank
so,
you.
sorry,
Councillor Bodica.
just to clarify that. So, for the others that aren't local people, are they metropolitan or are they other regional areas like Kalgoorlie-Boulder? You're not allowed to say, or?
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Noting the confidentiality of the attachment. Director.
A mix of both, regional areas, other regional areas, and Perth local.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bodica. No further questions on that one. Thank you, Director. Item 14.5.2 is the award of tender. RFT 26024, Project Manager, Rural Roads. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm understanding, but is this project manager for the panel that we've previously just spoken about? On the item previously?
Director of Engineering.
No, so this project manager will manage the rural road projects for us that are external to the city that we can't manage. Some of those roads are 700 to 900 kilometres away and we don't have the resourcing to be able to project manage that ourselves. So this is what that role.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
So we're essentially appointing a person to oversee this project through an RFT. I've got is that right? Essentially we're employing somebody. Is that, or am I simplifying that too much?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director of Engineering.
For yourself, Mr Mayor. No, Councillor House, that's correct. We're appointing a company to oversee the rural road works for the city.
Sorry, just clarification on that for Councillor House, to execute the rural roads funding, is that correct?
That is correct. Oversee, execute, make sure they're all done in line with our funding.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor House, to interject.
That was a good follow-up. Not dissimilar, but is this part of the funding requirements that we have a project manager oversee these things, or is this a discretionary thing that we are deciding ourselves?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director of Engineering.
Thank you. Through yourself, Mr Mayor. Councillor House, we do have the availability through some of our funding to appoint an external project manager to manage those projects and look after those for us.
Thank you. Councillor House, follow-up?
So I just want to clarify. My question was, do we have the discretion to make this decision ourselves, or is it a statutory requirement to have the project manager appointed externally to the organisation?
Sorry, Councillor House. Just Director of Engineering.
Through yourself, Mr Mayor. We do have the requirement. We don't have the statutory requirement. We can make that decision ourselves. For the previous 12 months, we have managed this in-house, but it's becoming increasingly harder to do this.
Thank you, Director of Engineering. Councillor House.
Will this be considered an employee cost?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director of Engineering.
No, this will not, Councillor House.
Thank you. No further questions, Council? Thank you, Director. Can we have Councillor O'Donnell back, please? Hopefully he's still awake and he hasn't raided the cookie jar. He's good. Sorry for keeping you out there so long, Councillor O'Donnell, on a cool night. City and community councillors, the City Grant Program Major Grants. There is a item there, Councillor. Is there any questions? Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I see that the Women's Healthcare put an application and it did not fully meet the criteria as it responsibly sits with the state government. However, I feel this is a critical and required service.
Councillor O'Donnell, you're entering into debate there, so...
all right, straight to it. Can we, can the application in consultation with the applicant be withdrawn and the city and the Women's Healthcare enter into a partnership service agreement, thereby having a strategic program with our city? Thank
you, Councillor O'Donnell. Director.
Through the chair, I wouldn't be recommended. Council does have discretion to do as it may choose in that regard, but the guidelines for and the policies for the partnership service agreements and the grants wouldn't support it likely through a PSA. They're intended for city responsibilities that we identify their community delivery partners that could do that on our behalf. and is only intended for what we consider responsibilities of the city. So grants at times can be used and continue, but I would suggest that the important point of emphasis is that they seek appropriate funding from the responsible levels of government.
Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In the breakup of the money, this project got less money than a storytelling application. I firmly believe that the amount of money...
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. You're entering into an opinion and debate.
Can I ask the question?
Yes, go ahead.
Can we increase that, balance it out a bit better?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr Acting CEO. No worries.
Given that the budget's just been adopted and we are trying to rein in expenditure, that's the competing demands piece that the city would need to consider. So in this year, as I understand it, the funds have been totally expended. So if there was the desire of council to either look at extending the grants program, perhaps in the next budget, that was something that would have to be, I think, put through a bit of rigour in contesting projects and expenditure.
Thank you, Mr Acting CEO. Councillor O'Donnell.
Just to clarify, I'd still be looking at the 227 bulk of the money that's allocated, but can we raise that 35,000 and deduct some from others? Reason being, there's no free specialised counselling services for children under 12 impacted by sexual abuse. It just doesn't sit well with me to...
Thank you. You're entering into debate again. I know you've got a strong opinion about it.
How to get it?
But just...
Can we give them more money than what they're getting, but not going outside the 227? We just vary it a bit.
Thanks, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr Acting CEO.
And again, this is a recommendation to council, Mr Mayor. Council can so determine if it wants to adjust the figures. That would be a council decision. Bearing in mind, back in the report, there has been some substantiation as to why those figures have been provided the way they have been, and also taking on board who actually has the ultimate responsibility for this area, which is the state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor Viskovich.
Do we have a method in how we determine, is there an actual calculated method on how we determine how much goes to each applicant?
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Director.
Yeah, through the chair. There is, particularly with the primary, first one is under the guidelines and the policy as to what's eligible. So there's a substantial amount of funding in all of these grants that technically is ineligible for funding under our grants criteria. So they're not for operating costs and they're not for marketing costs. There's certain things that aren't approved under the policy. Council again has discretion to make a decision outside of policy, but those guidelines exist to guide staff on making those assessments, and they're summarised in the report and in the application summaries as to what costs aren't eligible, and that's to guide council in making that decision. Hopefully, well, ideally, us to advise you as how it would align with policy.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Bodica.
Thank you. I was just going to ask a question through the Mayor to either the CEO or to the Director. So if a community group doesn't get, sort of the amount that they're expecting to get in terms of budget, surely there would be other avenues that they would actually be able to source those funds from. And when we're talking about, sort of specific groups like you mentioned the Goldfields Women's Healthcare Centre, which is a great group, I do know that they're able to access money from other areas. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor Bodica. Director.
Yes, through the chair. That is correct, and certainly the officers, as part of the liaison support that goes into applicants, speaking with staff about their applications, other funding is identified to them and recommended to them where we are aware of it. Some of the reports, again, go into some detail as to why there's recommendations for reduced amounts can often result to the availability of other funding, and some in regards to even when we assess the overall budget for a program, where our assessment is of the need for the city's money is also a factor that we look at as well. But yes, we do recommend where there are available supports that they could explore.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Bodica.
Can say, and so if a community group hasn't been successful in being able to, achieve the amount of monies that they're wanting for a very worthwhile cause, do we actually give them any support in saying, you can go these other avenues and, you may very well be more successful in doing that? Do we do that? Or do we
Thank
actually
you.
talk to those groups?
Councillor Lodica, Director. Yes, as mentioned, that's what staff do, is provide them advice on other avenues of funding support.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the matter to the Director. Director, I've got several questions which I'll send following the meeting because I'm not quite comfortable with the wording of them yet, but I do have one for tonight, and that is, would all funding have a condition placed on it that it's only awarded if remaining funding shortfalls are being confirmed?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the Chair. Generally, yes. That's again another assessment. It's sometimes brought into the agreements with the KPIs, depending how critical the funding is to the success of the program. And it is an assessment that we make at that agreement stage as to whether a KPI around needing to secure all of the funding. But some of these are where there's an assessment the program could succeed through liaison with the applicant, that it could be successful and delivered with a reduced budget. But we do require them to advise us of that proposed change, same way we require them to advise us if they change what they plan to spend the grant on. So as long as it's eligible but it helps them deliver the outcomes, they can be negotiated with variations.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Just follow up on that. Thank you, Director. That's answered exactly what I was chasing with that space. Just wanted to confirm, therefore, if a applicant wished to, if they're advised that it will change potentially, or it's not at the full amount they've requested, and they want to change the scope of the program, is that reassessed once again, given that that'll be a significant change to where the program currently is, or the project in this regard?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the Chair. Again, in the application phase, all applicants are advised that there is a chance that they won't receive full funding and asked what level of funding would make the program non-deliverable. If it changes post-granting, if there are significant changes, that depends on the scale of the change. Again, within thresholds, we probably wouldn't put as much rigour into reapplying for a $5,000 or $10,000 grant, but some of the more significant ones we would look at a reassessment, and if that's significant as to whether we decide to bring that back to council, or sometimes the thresholds are there, we could discuss it through a concept forum rather than need another decision of council. It depends on the thresholds, but it is case by case how much we're giving, how much will affect the program outcomes, as to how much we would look at detailing that and bringing back to council.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and some awesome questions. It took most of my questions that I had listed here, but what I want to understand is those answers that you've outlined with respect to the methodologies used, with respect to the justification. Why aren't they included in this report?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
I think I mentioned that most of the justifications are in the report, so it mentions why we've reduced funding. In certain cases, how we will develop KPIs are referenced in there, so I'm not sure if there's a specific mention that you feel hasn't been addressed.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
I asked for the methodologies. So that's really important, and it was really important nuance to the question, because the justification and the methodology is important that we understand that methodology, so we understand, so we can rely on that justification. So I would assume too, as part of that process, if there was a group who wasn't appeased, who weren't happy, whether they were upset or they fundamentally need that extra money, how do they appeal the decision?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
There isn't a built-in appeals process. Once the decision of council happens, having considered the officer's recommendation, that would be considered final. I guess the appeals process would therefore be a normal advocacy process to council to reconsider, whether that's through a councillor motion or some other process, but not through the grants approval process.
Thank you, Director. No further questions, Council. Thank you, Director. Item 1462, alignment of public health plan of the city with the state public health plan. Any questions, Council? Councillor Viskovich?
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that the changes aren't creating any new financial commitments. It's just administrative changes throughout the report.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. Director?
Through the chair, that's great. There's no financial or proposed changes to the actions within the plan.
Thank you. Was there further questions, Councillor? Councillor House?
Is this a statutory requirement? I sound like a broken record. I appreciate that, but is this a statutory requirement, or are we voluntarily doing this?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director?
It is a statutory requirement. The Department of Health has required all local governments to, within 1 year, align and show alignment within their plans to the state public health plan.
Thank you, Councillor House.
Are we compensated for this?
Director?
No, that's why the state has asked it to do as part of what we also are statutorily obligated to do, which is to do an annual review. So they've asked to do that while we do the annual review.
Councillor House?
The reason I ask this question, Mr. Mayor, is the state had their requirements for all local governments to have public health plans some time ago. We fulfilled that obligation. What I'm reading here is that the state has come in after giving that direction to local government to have public health plans and are now saying realign to this particular achievement or goal that the state are willing to achieve. My question here is if there's this alignment, I mean, am I talking out of school here to say that there seems to be some misalignment with some of the health outcomes here in the community presently? And would like to understand how are we considering that with the state and aligning that with some of the problems that we're having here on the ground in the community.
Thank you, Councillor House. Director?
Through the chair. The report intends to detail that our existing plan does align. The requirement is that it not just align, but articulate how it aligns. So that's the administrative change, is to make sure the document clearly says how our plan aligns. That's why it hasn't resulted in any material action changes or cost impacts, is because the existing plan did align, but the requirement is also to make sure our plan refers to and articulates how it aligns.
Thank you. Any further questions, Council? No. Item 1463, partnership service agreements. Again, the Deputy Mayor has a impartiality for this one, and I'm clear. Making sure that I didn't have the same ones as the Deputy Mayor. Questions, councillors, on the partnership service agreements? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll kick these ones off. The first question I've got is, why do the proposed partnership service agreements include a reduction in funding over the next 3 years, given the intent of the PSAs are to complete outcomes and address service gaps on behalf of the city, and this seems to be out of sync with the PSA policy?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the chair, it wouldn't be the case with all PSAs, but these ones, agenda responding to council appetite expressed through some of the previous PSAs and agreements like the New Year's Eve event, is to look at sustainability and efficiency gains wherever possible. I would suggest it's a little bit similar to the KPIs we put on ourselves as well, to look at where there are potentials to reduce funding and reduce costs. And it's just a view to an overall sustainability and efficiency improvement to be put onto others who provide services on our behalf as well. It is on an annual review, so it's not a requirement. It's a key performance indicator, but if that's not able to be met, that would be part of the reporting and review process, and that's why it's 1 + 1 + 1. It does give us the ability to change the funding as part of budget considerations each year, but it sets objectives to try and achieve sustainability objectives and encourages providers to explore if there are other funding sources available. But the anticipation would be if a organisation came back, showed good effort and showed under the KPI the expectation that they seek extra funding but can't achieve that through being told no to other grant applications, that could be reconsidered and represented to council.
Thank you, Director. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Take your note, Director, what you've just stated there. The draft PSA agreements, though, do clearly state a reduction of 15% in year 2 and a further 20% in year 3. So if it's on a negotiation basis, why would that be included in there?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the chair, it's intending to set objectives and set those as clear expectations that we would like those organisations to pursue, as to reduce the reliance on just local government funding. But again, that's why it's set up as a 1+1+1, as it does enable us to come back with reasonable justification to come to council. I guess it's a bit like a rolling 4-year budget or a rolling thing, but has an annual review process built in. It sets some targets into the longer term funding sustainability, but gives us the ability to renegotiate it on an annual basis.
Thank you, Director. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director, based on that, where did this decision to go down this path originate from? Because I don't believe it has come from council to set a reducing KPI target moving forward. And given that I wouldn't consider this as a funding agreement, given it's a partnership service agreement, I'm struggling to understand where this has come from. For me, it's blindsided me a little bit on it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to revert to the Acting CEO.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, I'll take that one on because I provided that guidance to try to look at some efficiencies in the longer term. Otherwise, we see a growing demand for the city's funds and not really, to be in all honesty, not a lot of incentives to the not-for-profits to look at their own sustainability models. So I asked staff to look at how they might do this in conversations with those groups. And yes, it may have some detrimental effect on the service delivery, which is why the 1+1+1 allows for that review at a yearly basis. But we wanted to send a clear message, subject to council's endorsement of this process, that there's an expectation that that funding is eventually reduced to a level from what it is rather than growing.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the dropping of the value for these have any bearing on the reduced rates for the next financial year? Would that come into it?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr. Acting CEO.
In relation to the adoption of the budget?
Yes.
No. So in relation to the city's budget, the only change that was made to the budget was the reduction of a transfer to reserve and a very modest decrease from 5% to 4.96%, which only equated to, I think, $40,000. So no, it was not considered at all in relation to the PSOs.
Councillor House.
We've just been given an overview by the Director about the methodology, which I appreciate. But I hear from the Acting CEO that he's made an arbitrary decision to put these arbitrary numbers in this report or in these agreements and not substantiated by anything other than an opinion. So my question is, how does the budget, can the budget be adjusted to reflect what these needs are from these groups? Or do we have to do something in terms of our own service delivery, being a non-for-profit, being a non-profit group ourselves? I don't think it's within us to be doing the same thing to other not-for-profit groups if we're not going to do it to ourselves. So my question, again, just reiterating, does the budget allow for us to readjust?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
The reducing amounts aren't for this financial year. They're only proposed to reduce in the subsequent financial years. So the budget for this year doesn't reduce and was set in consideration of the budget approval on these amounts. The budget's proposed for future years, and again, subject to the annual KPIs and negotiations, would be put to council at that time as to whether it has an appetite to reduce them or retain them. But that would be part of the budget workshops for the future financial years.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not really au fait with partnership agreements. I'm not from the report. I've just really all I have. But could I get an understanding from the Director or the Acting CEO? What's the difference between a funding agreement, a service agreement, or a partnership agreement? What are the fundamental differences here? Because I believe we offer all three. So I really want to understand what are the differences between the three.
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
It's really the terminology that was adopted for these types of agreements. So the funding agreements we do under our grants program have different criteria. They don't allow certain expenses, particularly like operational costs for staffing, whereas the term we've given to these, a partnership service agreement, because they're doing effectively labour or work that the city might otherwise do, it can include other expenses that aren't permitted under our grants program and those funding agreements.
Thank you. Councillor House?
So the service level review that we're yet to undertake, we've already made an assumption that those particular services are going to have a reduced capacity by 35%. Is that a fair statement?
Thank you, Councillor House. Mr Acting CEO?
No, that's not how it's been reviewed at all. So the service level of the reviews that the city will undertake will be about primarily our own services and programs, our own business units. This was really trying to start to address in a very, very small way the future sustainability of the city's budget. So this is a very small start in that process. The service reviews of the various business units will be a larger part of that position, and those recommendations will come back to council for consideration and change into the future.
Thank you. Director?
Just to add to that, trying to emphasise again that the part of why we went with the annual review is that it could be subject to change. So I think Councillor Haas is asking if we did a service review where some of these services are being provided so that we don't have to employ staff or other ways of funding it. If that service review did result in a change of service level, that could be part of what would be addressed. So while this is modelled on what we think and know now, if a service review through council's direction wanted to lift the standard of whether it's tree planting or whatever it might be, that would allow that annual review to actually say we want to increase this amount with council's direction. So it's sort of setting a plan on the assumptions we have now, that there's a reasonable expectation that these groups could source funding to keep the same service levels but with funding contributions from other funding partners as well. If the service levels determine that we want to provide a different level of service, whether that's less or more, these agreements that are in principle over 3 years could be changed under the annual review process.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Visky?
Just a note on the execution page for, I think, the K Bold it was, it actually states Eastern Goldfields Historical Society. So just, I think, needs to be the name change.
Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. No further questions? Thank you. Request for development application fee waiver 1464. In relation to that, are there any questions? Thank you, Councillor Viskovich. You have a question? No? Councillor House, you have a question? Just grab your mic. Thank you.
Sorry. We have a policy for this, I believe. Doesn't the CEO have discretion for this?
Correct. However, for a 100% waiver, there's no discretion or delegation to the CEO for a full amount. Thank you. Councillor O'Donnell.
I'm all for this.
Councillor O'Donnell, questions, please.
Yeah, the question. Does large amounts like this, when we've already allocated the budget, we've got money set aside, or can that be taken into account that we're not that revenue's not coming in? It shouldn't, like 20,000 here, 20,000 there. It'll add up. Does it impact on us?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Mr Acting CEO.
Yes, through Mr Mayor. So the expected revenue or licence fees that we receive are based pretty well on how we think the economy is running and what the previous years might have been. So either a reduction or an increase would not necessarily be budgeted for. We do not have a fund that we have for waived fees. So that just means that revenue is potentially going to be lower out of development application fees, or another big one may come in and we will cover that position.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just given that it's not for profit and it seems to be also the Housing Authority, I just wanted to confirm that the application still fully meets the waiving planning for policy. at 100%.
Thank you. Councillor Viskovich, Director?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Councillor House?
Just so I want to get clear on this. I think 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, recently, let's say that, we considered and endorsed or adopted a policy that had the mechanism that a group can apply for a waiver, a community group can apply for a waiver and receive up to 80% discount, presumably have to pay the remaining 20%. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Councillor
Yes,
House?
that's correct.
Then I need to ask a question. Why are we considering a report that's requesting 100%? If the council's already made a policy decision that says this is your ability as the non-for-profit group, council has set a clear position, 80% discount, or waiver. My question is, why then council is considering 100% waiver?
Thanks, Councillor House. I'll answer that just in terms of the report, unless the Director would like to follow that up. But as part of the application, the applicant is seeking the waiver of 100% of the city's development application fee. Director, is that correct?
Through the Chair, yes, that's correct. Additionally, the endorsement was only relating to the CEO's ability to, or delegation as to what maximum percentage. Council still reserves and has within policy the ability to do 100%. So the report previously was only in relation to the CEO's delegated limit.
Thank you. Councillor House?
So if I read this report in detail, which I haven't had a chance to do, so I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, there is 789 pages to the attachment, so I only got halfway through. If I do read those attachments, am I going to find correspondence from the Salvation Army making this request to council?
There's no attachment with the particular item, but I don't have that. I'll refer to staff on that.
Through the Chair, we could provide that if it's not wanting, if there is question on the officer's statement within the report.
Thank you. Councillor House?
If the Salvation Army is seeking to waive their fees, I think there's a legitimate reason to consider that. The reason that council would have a policy in place to deal with these things is so that we don't have to consider these things unnecessarily. So my question is, has this city advised the applicant that this is the policy and you can go down this channel? And did the applicant say, no, we don't want that 80% discount, we want the 100% discount, and then not communicate with the city, so not make a formal request? They've just verbally said we want a discount over the phone. And we've gone, yeah, okay.
Thank you, Councillor House. Director?
Through the Chair, the policy actually does say 100%. It's just the internal process that restricts what the CEO can do under discretion. So external applicants are aware that they can apply for 100% fee waiver.
Just clarify that last percentage that you just said, 80%, 100%?
80% is the CEO, so that's our internal restrictions under delegation.
Yeah.
But externally, the policy does say up to 100% can be waived. Applicants are aware of that when they apply.
Okay, thank you. Further questions, councillors? No? Thank you. Item 1465, development application extension to existing warehouse storage D042/26 lot 350, lot 351. This is number 280A and to 282 Hay Street, Kalgoorlie. Any questions, councillors? Councillor House?
Extension to an existing warehouse storage. I'm going to assume it's because this is a non-conforming use, and if it's a non-conforming use, I just really want to understand, why is this in front of council? I can't see anywhere in the report where there's a requirement for us to consider this except for public consultation. Is that right? Would you say?
Thank you, Councillor House. We'll get clarity on that. Director?
Through the Chair, yes, this proposal is an A use, so it requires council approval with advertising.
Thank you.
Received objections?
Thank you, Council. Sorry, thank you, Director. Sorry, Councillor House, what was your question again?
Have we received objections to this proposal?
The report under the consultation section says that no submissions were received.
Thank you, Director. Any further questions? Councillor House?
Similar to the lease conditions, Mr. Mayor, where it is subject to the consultation occurring and there being an objection that council would consider the report. And I would like to understand from an administrative point of view, what is the point of putting this to council for determination if there's been no submissions?
Thank you, Councillor House. Acting CEO.
Yeah, simply because at this stage there's no delegated authority to the CEO to determine a use proposal, irrespective of public submissions or not.
So we would
Thank you.
need to make an amendment or some change, is that prescribed in the scheme?
Thanks, Councillor House. Acting CEO.
So it is prescribed. That's how the scheme is currently prescribed, and yes, delegations can be modified.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just, sorry, further to that, through the chair, is there was a request which was supported a couple of meetings ago that we would prepare a council concept forum item on seeking to review what delegations for planning items had to come to council. I think it was Councillor Johnson that asked for that, and that is planned to come soon for council to consider whether any delegations do want to take lower risk planning applications off council's plate.
Thank you, Director. No further questions, Council. Item 1466 is the RFT 26023, design, supply and installation of Christmas decorations in July. It's ordinary council meeting. Any questions, Council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to remind the Director, I struggled a little bit with this item because I'm not really sure what council is actually being asked to adopt.
Just clarifying, the two attachments are confidential.
Yes, thank you. Adopt, given we haven't been provided with the actual plans or designs for what's being proposed from the tenderer, only the city's concept designs. And we're not completely sure on what the $1.2 million total tender will be spent on. So can I get some clarity on what we're actually being asked to design without that information? Adopt without that information being readily available.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the chair. Apologies if it's not clear, the imagery is from Tenderer B, so they are the actual concept submissions from that tenderer.
So in the confidential attachment, Tenderer B's photos, the description there is from the actual tenderer themselves.
Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So they're listed as concepts. So is that in full what we'd be receiving as outlined within the attachment?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the chair. It's probably a little further than concepts. The caveat put within the tender was it's subject to just detailed design as to identifying anything that couldn't be proposed. So they've identified that they can do those decorations on budget. What we allow for as far as final design is that some of those will depend on some of the detail. For example, what can be done in a particular road reserve if main roads give us a late objection to a particular decoration type. So it just allows that we may need to make minor variations, but essentially those concepts are what they have proposed for each site, but it's just that it is subject to some final checks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
And one final one. Would the final agreement have a minimum standard? I just obviously don't want to be stung potentially with a few candles being lit in the middle of Hannon Street, and that's the equivalent of the grant. So would there be a minimum requirement based on what the attachment outlines, with some variation potentially discussed at a more higher level from there?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair. The tender specifications did have minimum requirements, so it detailed the particular dimensions and sizes of many of the decorations and the sizes of the trees, and that's what all submitters had to show that they could comply with. So yeah, there was a lot of detail into the size of the banner pole requirements. It's essentially just allowing for any technical reason why decorations may need to change. Possibly one of note again wouldn't be completely clear, having not seen the tender documentation, is that the Kalgoorlie Town Hall and the Market Arcade decorations are alternates. There is some discussions going on with a a local group about potentially wanting to be involved in that space. So we've just had a backup plan for the same equivalent value that should the town hall be decorated by another party, and that'll be coming to council's attention. We just wanted to provide for an option that should that happen, the similar value could go to add a decoration. It wouldn't be the intention that both the Market Arcade decoration proposal and the Kalgoorlie Town Hall proposal would happen unless the additional party comes to do the town hall.
Thank you. Councillor Bodica.
Thank you. With this proposal, it says that the current decorations that we have are end of life. So is it going to be fairly distributed between Kalgoorlie and Boulder CBDs to do the Christmas decorations? Is that what the plan is?
Thank you. Councillor Bodica, Director.
And will there be Christmas trees that are actually, you know, nice Christmas trees in both areas? That's what I'm asking.
Through the chair, the design of the specifications was to reflect the areas of the city that have previously been decorated by the city with its own decorations to provide a similar level of provision as has been in past years. So the similar areas went out for Loop 1 Park and Boulder Town Hall, the Boulder Main Street. So similarly to what had happened prior to the decorations not being able to go out last year.
So they're going to be similar in both areas of the city, in both CBDs. Yeah, what are you saying?
Yes, there's Councillor Bodica on your attachment shows those particular locations.
Yep, I haven't got the attachment. It hasn't come through to my iPad.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I notice a tenderer scored more in total than the one that's recommended, and the one that didn't get it has more relevant experience, more regional capacity, and capacity to deliver, but didn't have the design quality there. Is there a reason? Is that the reason why you didn't go with the one that scored higher?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Director.
Through the chair. As detailed in the report, the principal reasoning was that the tenderer that scored higher was over the limited tender amount, so it went out as fixed price in line with council's decision, and they didn't adhere to that maximum, so they went over budget, and therefore the panel considered that the scores of the second highest ranked applicant were still satisfactory for appointment.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Well, just one last one. If they didn't meet the criteria or over they went over budget or whatever, shouldn't there be somewhere where they should be marked way down for doing that?
Thanks, Councillor O'Donnell. Director.
Through the chair, it's I guess a quirk of not therefore having a price weighting is that it doesn't therefore result in a weighting criteria within the scoring table. So it's only on a technical basis, on a value for money proposal, that within the report we detail why the panel has recommended the tenderer that has priced under the limit.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Is it possible on that confidential attachment to have the pricing on it per one, so as transparency from each of them, or no?
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Director.
Through the chair, because it's a fixed price contract, both of the other tenderers did adhere to the pricing limit, so that perhaps could be provided, but essentially the budget endorsed by council was the amount.
Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. Councillor House.
Good ideas in there with the buildings, uplighting the buildings. I'm sure you guys got that
Sorry,
idea
we're just
from.
confidential attachments as to the
Thank you.
design
That's okay,
detail.
because it was my idea. I've already put it to the table. It's already been discussed twice.
Thanks,
at
Councillor House.
council.
You have a
So
question?
I do have a question. Who has the ownership and the liability for the tree or the bulbs and all these types of things that are going to be in the public domain? Who holds the legal responsibility for these things? does this contract deal with that?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
Through the chair, different aspects of the liability. So the city holds public liability for anything that should happen as far as damage caused to a user or a member of the public or vehicle. But as to the actual damage, the contract provides for replacement, repair and maintenance within certain time criteria. So specifications as to responsibility to fix something fall within the contract for the provider. Liability and insurance for public interacting with it would be ours as per any other equipment we hired or used or put in the public domain.
Thank you, Director. Councillor House.
The banner poles were mentioned last year as being one of the main reasons, besides the deterioration of the Christmas tree and the Christmas lights. The banner poles were mentioned as being insufficient to hold banners. So I've got my concern here is, does our brief or tender address the engineering requirements to hold those banner poles? And if not, how do we intend to address that?
Thank you, Councillor House. I'll defer to the Acting CEO.
Just for clarification, I think the conversation was that the contractor who was going to install the lights, so it wasn't the banners, it was about the lights, was concerned that the poles didn't have the structural capacity to take the string lights over that distance, and there wasn't necessarily any other consultation or assessment against those. So in this case, I think the awarded tenderer will still need to comply with what we class as normal safety standards.
Thank you, Mr. Acting CEO. Councillor House.
Just to clarify, are you saying that there was no problem with the banner poles and the O-rings that moved with the banner pole?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
Possibly to answer the issue back at the point of what the issue was the stringing between banner poles. So it created tension between the poles. The specifications for this requirements were that there's no stringing, that the decorations are on the poles only and not creating tension between the poles. So these will be banner decorations on each individual pole, addressing the issue that was identified of the tension created by stringing lights between poles.
Thank you. Councillor House.
At the start of your presentation, you mentioned there was potential groups who would be interested in doing, well, I think the word you used was variations or additional to the tender. Who are those groups? And if those groups are interested and they're local groups, why aren't we giving them the opportunity to do this entire project?
Thank you, Councillor House. Director.
Through the chair, I don't recall mentioning other groups. Is that the group, the tenderers could...
Thanks, Councillor House. That's enough.
The tenderers could talk to us about variations based upon what technical advice they might get as to the ability for their planned decoration to be able to be implemented might result in a variation. So that was a mention of the group being the tenderer working with the city on any variations to the proposed decorations as part of detailed design.
Thank you, Director. Deputy Mayor.
My apologies, a couple more just popped up based on conversations. Just circling back to the insurance component a little bit, Director. As the tender includes the installation of decorations, if an item was to fall and harm a resident, would the city or the contractor be liable? And if it is the city, what checks will we have in place to ensure compliant installation?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Take that on notice.
Thank you. Second question.
Thank you. My second and final one on this item is just out of interest in regards to the evaluation results table that's included in the officer's report. Is there a minimum score total that tenderers need to meet as part of this in order to be considered? Like, do we have a cut-off threshold that if you're below it, it's just not considered at all?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Director.
Through the chair. I'm not aware that there's a cut-off set. Essentially, it's for comparative purposes. My recommendation would be that the panel would advise if they consider the risk value of a low score or all tenderers being very low would be essentially a recommendation to not appoint based upon a risk assessment of some of the scores of concern.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. We now have two items. Sorry, there won't be any there's no questions of which due notice have been given, but there may be a couple, Mr Acting CEO, that I think you might be working on at the moment. So, Council, there may be that come through to you. I'm aware of a couple, so we'll accept those. Item 16, we have 2 items under confidential tonight to discuss, which we will move to confidential. So we'll pause the streaming and cover that off. No. We'll resume our live event tonight. Closing the meeting, the agenda briefing at 8:46. But however, before I do, note that Councillor Della departed the meeting for a period of 3 minutes from 8:29 to 8:32 p.m. Due to telecommunications cut off, and Councillor Bodica left the meeting tonight at 8:28 p.m. and has not returned. Ordinary council meeting is next Monday night, 6 o'clock here at the Kalgoorlie Town Hall. Thank you, elected members, for all of your questions tonight. There were several, which was fantastic on a very large agenda. And thank you to staff for attending as well and getting to those questions. Thank you.